Right now, talks between high-ranking Ukrainian and Russian officials are underway. This is close to the border between Ukraine and Belarus. Ukraine has now demanded, ahead of the meeting, an immediate ceasefire and complete withdrawal of Russian troops from this country.
Meantime, Russian forces facing fierce and stiffer than expected resistance across the country. I want to show you some video just into CNN this morning. This shows a convoy of Russian military vehicles leaving the battle zone near Kharkiv, heading back to military camps on the Russian side of the border. Also this morning, Ukraine announcing it will create an international legion for foreign volunteers to join the fight against Russia.
Joining us now to discuss, retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He's the former commanding general for Europe and the 7th Army. Also, Olga Tokariuk. She's a freelance journalist in Ukraine, non-resident fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis. Good to have you both. General Hertling, I want to begin with you, and I want to show you video that has come into CNN just a short time ago. This took place in Kharkiv in the northeastern part of Ukraine, and it shows an attack. And I know you've looked at this video. Can you give us a sense as we watch it as to what weapon you think is being used here?
No, I know what weapon's being used, Jim. It's a Smerch, part of a Smerch rocket attack, a multiple launch rocket attack. But what's important, if you can continue to show the video, you see all the pops in the middle of the explosions. Those are cluster munitions. Those are not artillery rounds falling. It would be bad enough if these were artillery rounds falling on a apartment complex, but those are cluster munitions. Let me explain. It's a rocket that goes overhead, releases a bunch of small bomblets, close to 100 of them, and they land like hand grenades in a large swath of land. They are geared to execute civilian casualties on a massive scale. So it's like having on each rocket that lands 100 small hand grenades falling. To use that and I've seen evidence of this in other attacks, films from other attacks over the last couple days that are landing in streets and in small cities. This is the most devastating kind of artillery because not only does it land and explode, but in some cases those rounds don't explode. They become duds. So they litter the battlefield and become somewhat like landmines for children to pick up or someone to step on.
It's also, as we're watching this, General, to see this playing out at essentially the same time as these talks are happening, that's an interesting message in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've seen is a repeated attack on the civilian population of Ukraine. It doesn't appear that the Russians are even attempting to fight soldiers until the Ukrainian soldiers fight them. They seem to be under a terror campaign of trying to make the population of Ukraine and the various large cities frightened, psychological warfare by using these kinds of munitions and rolling through their towns. The use of tanks and armored carriers in a mobile environment like this, in my view, Erica, is just ridiculous. And it just shows the incompetence, first of all, of the Russian army and the fact that they are not doing the things that most nations abide by in the law of land warfare.
Olga, good to have you on as well. Earlier this month, and this was before the start of the invasion, you wrote in the Washington Post, "I know my generation will prevail again. I know Putin's plans for Ukraine, whatever shape they take, are doomed to fail. Millions of Ukrainians stand united, once again ready to resist." Those were prescient comments, because while some might have doubted that in the face of the Russian advance prior, it's exactly what we're seeing play out right now in this country. The question is, can it hold up? Right? Because we're only 5 days in.
Well, I'm sure it can hold up. Well, Ukrainians have demonstrated incredible resilience and readiness to defend their country. The conscription offices are full of volunteers. They are not making in time to proceed everyone who wants to join the army or join the territorial defense units. They're actually sending people back, saying to come back in a couple of days, because so many Ukrainian men are volunteering to join the resistance, and civilians are also, very active in different ways, supporting the army, donating money. Millions of dollars have been raised in recent days for the needs of the Ukrainian army from Ukrainian civilians. A lot, also people are going to donate blood to support the hospitals, to treat injured people. There's a massive effort, of course, humanitarian humanitarian effort to provide support for the IDPs, internally displaced people who are fleeing. So I could safely say that Ukraine is united in its resistance and is ready for a long battle, but Ukraine will prevail ultimately, I'm sure of that.
General, we hear Olga talk there about, and we've seen so much of it and heard from other Ukrainians about their determination and their pride in their country and how important their independence is. When you look at that juxtaposed with, as you were just laying out, that from your estimation, the Russian soldiers aren't even really fighting Ukrainian military until they're faced with them. How much more of what we're seeing, including this, line of, as Fred Pleitgen was just laying out, broken down military gear on the way in, still on the Russian side, how much is that demasking, if you will, the Russian military and perhaps what a lot of folks thought they may know about just how well prepared or not the Russian military was and is?
Yeah, I'll say two things to that, Erica. First of all, I've been saying from the very beginning, we should not consider the Russian military as 10 feet tall. They are not. They have terrible leadership at both the tactical and the operational level. Their soldiers are untrained. They are extremely undisciplined. And I say that from personal experience. I've watched, as commander in Europe, I've watched Russian exercises, Russian training events. At the same time, I've also worked very extensively with Ukraine and Ukrainians' army. They have evolved to a point of being one of the best armies in Europe. They have a straight discipline. They've got great leaders and soldiers. They have an operational mindset. Their general officer corps from the old Soviet Union days have been replaced by very patriotic individuals. And the country is a beautiful cultural icon. And to see Russia coming in and applying these attacks against humanity in this beautiful country just pains me. And it's unfortunate because, as Ms. Tokariuk just said, it is a wonderful culture and they are leaning forward in society as opposed to going backwards, as it seems Mr. Putin is attempting to take Russia.
Olga, is there a path out of this short of an endless war?
Well, I just want to compliment, General Hartling on his also thread, his words on Twitter. He was praising and, stressing exactly that the Ukrainian army has the spirit and the Ukrainian society in general has, what Russia lacks, motivation, and they know what they are doing. They are defending their land. So thank you also, General, for this support. It's very encouraging for us in Ukraine to see people in the West who understand Ukraine as well and, are really making this message heard all over the world. In terms of how this would end, I see that the pressure on Russia is increasing and Russians increasingly start to realize what is happening. There are already reports and, messages on social media calling on Russian citizens to go out and protest. And the Ukrainian government is doing a lot for that. There is a hotline for Russian mothers and wives where they can call and inquire about, their children and husbands who are currently fighting in Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are telling them what is happening, and the Ukrainians are also encouraging them to go and protest. As the Russian economy is falling, it's in free fall at the moment. We can expect those protests. We can expect, the public opinion in Russia changing despite the massive effort of propaganda to hide the casualties and what is really happening. So I'm optimistic about the outcome of this. Ukraine will win. It's the only question: what will be the human cost and the toll of this war? As we are seeing Russia unleashing, the artillery and bombing on civilian areas.
Yeah.
And Erica, if I can add to that, I'm sorry, I know you're going over time, but if I can just add, we who watch Russia have seen this time after time after time in places like Chechnya, in Syria, in Transnistria, in Nagorno-Karabakh. They have been the oppressors and inhumane in their activities, and it's time to hold them accountable.
Yeah, we need to talk about evidence of that human toll. Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, Olga Tokariuk, appreciate you both joining us this morning. Thank you.